Hi, everyone. My name is Akhil. I'm the co-founder of Green Story, and with me is Carla Farina of Eddys brand. So, Carla, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Akil. Thanks for having me today. Hello, everybody. My name is Carla Farina, and as Akil said, I am the owner, founder of Eddys brand. And Eddys brand is a children's wear clothing company. We make sweaters out of unraveled yarn, and our motto is no new cotton and no new plastics. Tiny sweaters with a big impact.
That's awesome. So that's a really unique system that you have. So can you give me a quick background on how you ended up starting Eddie's brand? Because you had quite a bit of experience in the fashion space before you started on your own brand.
I did, yeah. I worked in fashion for, I would say, about 10 years. I studied at the Fashion Institute of Technology. For as long as I can remember, I was drawing clothing or sewing for my Barbies and my dolls. It's just something that has been part of my life. So yeah, I worked in the industry, and I worked in like the fast fashion sector, private label, where we were just, the mission is to produce as much as possible. And at first it was very exciting to see my stuff in stores. And then little by little, I started to see how much waste there was and how much pollution I was contributing to. And I realized that I didn't want to do that anymore. Like I thought that there's got to be a better way to do it, to still produce beautiful clothing. We wear clothing every day. I still love to get dressed up. I still love to go shopping, but there has to be a better way to do it, which is when I started thinking about sustainability, which was kind of like a new hot topic at the time, and kind of seeing where my path would be within fashion and sustainability. So I started learning about that.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about Eddie's. Like, what's the one thing that really makes it sustainable, or the many things, I guess, that make it sustainable?
Yeah, so I had a really big idea. And in the beginning, I wanted to be circular. And my idea was I'm going to create a 100% sustainable brand with no waste. It's going to be circular, which means that I'm creating something and taking something back. Nothing ends up in landfill. There's no energy waste, like this huge idea. And as I was researching, I realized it's impossible. It's impossible with the systems that we have. It's impossible with the manufacturing that we have today. But there's so many players, so many people working towards it. So I started to kind of see what I can do with what I know and what I can do with my skills. And one of the things that I've always loved, and I actually majored in knitwear at FIT. So I knew I wanted to do knitting and some kind of sweater, something like that. And so what makes Eddie sustainable is that I don't use any new cotton. I work with secondhand sweaters that are unraveled, they're taken apart. And the beauty of knitwear is, unlike a traditional cut and sew shirt or pair of pants that is a big piece of fabric that is cut up and sewn into the piece that you wear, a sweater is made with a piece of yarn that is turned into the shape and then put together, but it can always be taken apart, which I think is beautiful because then you still have that material. So that's kind of what started the idea, and knowing that I love knitwear, knowing that I can take it apart over and over again. So yeah, I work with secondhand sweaters. They're unraveled. They're put into cones that easily go into my knitting machine. And I make garments out of this. I make beanies, I make sweaters, and I make little pants. So like a little set for children. And the other thing that I work on also is a take back program, where right now the idea is to take back everything that I can. And I've had so many generous parents that, of course, their children grow out of things and they pass them down, and then their second children grow out of things. So the only outlet that I have right now is donating to charity. I would love to be able to do something else eventually, but there's so many, I realized that there were so many children in New York City, because I'm based in New York City, that are in need, parents that don't have the resources to continue to buy clothes for children as they outgrow them. And any parents that are listening know that that is in the early stages, every couple of months, and then it turns into every 6-ish months. So yeah, what I do right now is collect the secondhand clothing and give it to charities that then in turn also donate it to parents in need. Keeping it for at least one more cycle out of landfill. Really, I'm trying to work towards that circular model. It just isn't as easy as I originally thought.
So, I mean, the whole process is fascinating to me because you're literally unraveling a sweater in a sense and making a new one. Did you have to like invent your own processes, or were there like some set machinery and like systems in order to do this, in an easy way, in like a production ready way?
So yes and no. There is a company that I work with in Virginia who this is what they do. They believe that there's tons of articles of clothing out there, sweaters that can be unraveled. So I partnered with them and they do have some machinery. It's we're both in the beginning stages of the business, so there's a lot of things to work out, but they're so smart in their process and how they do it, because as any business owner would know, it's about being able to scale and about being able to provide something at a fair price, at a decent price, especially if you're replacing clothing every few months, right? So yeah, it's really important to us for myself and also for this other company to figure out how to do it efficiently, how to take sweaters apart, because it is a lot of handwork in the beginning, but then how to take it apart efficiently. So we're working on it.
That's fair enough. And tell me about sourcing, because the one issue that I find with a lot of more sustainable sourcing, especially even now, say organic cotton, is like people aren't able to find enough. Uh, have you come across that issue with your own sourcing, and how have you tackled that
Oh yeah.
challenge?
So I did search. So one thing about Eddys and the unraveled cotton is that it's not necessarily organic. They're secondhand sweaters. They've been worn. They're post-consumer, which means that it comes from people who have purchased, like in a department store or wherever, worn it and then donated it. And that's from those donations is where we collect the material to make the sweaters. And yes, I have researched into organic cotton. Actually, this year I was doing a ton of research into organic cotton because one of the issues that I'm finding is consistency. So another thing with production, when you want to make one sweater, you can do whatever you want and like have a fun day of making that one sweater. But if now I want to make, let's say 10 sweaters or 100 sweaters, I have to be able to streamline the size of the yarn, the color to some extent. And those are huge issues that I was facing. And really what I decided was we're going to have color variations because I can't control it, right? So just letting go of that need to control and making sure that everything is the same size. Eddys is meant to be a direct-to-consumer brand. So the idea that it's not going to sit in a store and it doesn't need to necessarily be cohesive from every green color that I have or every pink color that I have. You're going to get a piece for your kid, and most likely it's going to be a one or a two of a kind item, which I think adds to the story and makes it more beautiful and more personal. So that's how we kind of solved that challenge. I just said I can't control it, so I'm not going to. But with the organic cotton, in looking to control that a little bit more, I came across that issue. There is not enough organic cotton, and it is the big brands of the world that are buying it. Especially, I was looking for US organic cotton, specifically trying to keep the supply chain as local as possible. And while I love that these big brands are picking up all of this organic cotton, which means that more people have, more consumers, more customers will have access to it, it's kind of a bummer because now I don't get to use it. So I don't know when I was actually speaking with one of the mills, which is the people that, the factories that turn fiber into yarn. What we came out after that meeting was that I need to go buy some land in Texas and start an organic cotton farm because we need it. You know,
Yeah.
there's a demand for it. We need it. We need to figure out how to make more of it, especially organic, which is, you know, better for the soil, for the environment, and all of those like positive things.
That's fair enough. So definitely a huge challenge, and it can't be the only one you face in 2020 because you're a relatively new brand, and 2020 especially hit a lot of small startups. But hey, you're here, you survived, you thrived. So tell me a little bit about that. How's the whole year?
The year, it was interesting. So I launched for sales in August of 2019. So holidays, of course, are huge for sales for anyone, like end of the year. So I did a few pop-ups and I met a ton of amazing customers and I made a lot of great connections. And I was planning on doing more in the spring since it's a sweater, even though they're cotton and a bit lightweight, it's really hard to sell in the summer. So I was planning on doing in March and April a few more local pop-ups. And of course, those were canceled. And I didn't have a contingency plan. I was just lucky enough where I wasn't spread too thin that I can continue to move forward. Since I do a lot of the manufacturing myself, I went into the little micro factory and I just started making more items to kind of have a little bit of inventory. I did a ton of promotions online and I took the time to connect with other brands and and just do networking and just find people out there that were interested in sustainable fashion, that were interested in just sustainability or fair trade or the sustainable development goals, and just make friends. That's really what I did. I spent the time making friends and making connections, especially in the beginning because people just stopped buying stuff, and rightfully so. I did the same thing. So to go out there and like promote to buy my product, it just didn't seem right. So I just spent the time making connections and making friends. And I was lucky enough that I had the finances to keep myself moving forward. Again, being a solopreneur, it wasn't as hard as others. And also having my husband working and being able to, you know, continue paying our bills and not like struggling with that. So yeah, it was the both of us that kept it moving. Him behind the scenes and like me in front of it.
So you kind of built your own support structure in the meantime when things were a bit slower. And how did that work out towards the end? Were you able to kind of leverage that as you know, like the big sales season came around?
Yeah, absolutely. We ended up doing, myself with a few other brands, ended up partnering and doing the Artists and Fleas pop-up, which is a fairly popular one within New York City, and I believe that they're in Venice, California. They have a few locations in New York City, and we did a pop-up with them. Yeah, and that came out of just having conversations throughout the year and promoting initiatives throughout the year with all these other brands. So yeah, it was really awesome.
Awesome.
As awesome that it could have been at the end of 2020, you know?
For sure. I mean, it's a nice way to send a horrible year off. So
yeah, definitely.
So we talked a little bit previously, and I think that's how we had initially connected on LinkedIn about impact measurement. Like, can you tell me a little bit more, because you run such a sustainable line. So how are you kind of ensuring that you're looking to, I guess, measure your impact and what you're doing?
Well, what I do is very simple. I have a bucket, and I wish I had it up here, but I have a bucket where I don't throw out any scraps. So as I'm knitting, there's always yarn that where you start off, you have a little bit extra. And if you guys check out my social media, I actually have my last post. I did like a handful of waste yarn from one of the sweaters. And I keep it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I don't have a large enough production where it's taking up a lot of space. But I think it's important to know how much is wasted, and also like figuring out how to waste less, like what's the best process for it. And I've done that with and maybe this is a little nutty, but like I've done it with sewing thread, because I realized that I was wasting as much as I was using to sew on labels, right? So like as you move the product from the sewing machine, sewing on the brand labels and the care labels that have to be on there, I have to like just use a ton of this extra thread, and just figuring out ways to just use less, right? So to just make the threads and the yarns last longer or be more efficient. So
That's
yeah, that's
amazing.
something that I've been doing, and I know that I can be doing a lot more. I am aware of the amount of water that is used when I'm pre-washing everything. I try to like keep the lights on, and what I love, lights off whenever possible. Try to knit during the day, not in the middle of the night. And the other thing that I currently love about my machines is that they are older than me knitting machines, made out of steel. They're beautiful. I maintain them impeccably, but they are man-powered, right? Or human-powered. So it's just me working out, knitting the sweaters, which is, you know, great for my heart, but also it doesn't use up any kind of electricity, which I think is really awesome.
That's really cool. Sweet. So another topic we touched upon was the concept of the SDGs in terms of like looking at impact. I know it's like a relatively new system like for you, like, but have you had any kind of thoughts around that and how to kind of I guess enable that for your own processes as you're
Yes.
thinking through it?
Of course I have. So I actually, I'm at my desk right now, and I have like a little bulletin board behind it, and I keep my printout of my
Oh,
sustainable
that's awesome.
development goals. And you can't really see, but I have 2 of them highlighted, which we can't fix everything right at once, but we can start with a focus. And my focus is number 8, which is decent work and economic growth. And number 12, responsible consumption and production. So I really try when making any kind of business decisions, adding new products or developing new ideas, like how can I make sure this is being made responsibly? Or like number 8, the decent work and economic growth, like a huge focus for me is being able to hire people in the city, to hire designers that are coming out of school, so that they don't have to go work for the private label companies and like have that revelation 10 years later and say like, oh, I should have been working for a sustainable company. Yeah, so and I'm trying to stay local because that's what I can control right now. So yeah, that's kind of what I think about, and I keep that there as a reminder. For any decision that I make, like how is this not going to just impact my bottom line, but how is it going to impact the people that are going to be working on it, whether it's now while I'm small or as I grow and more people become involved. So yeah, I
That's
think
awesome.
about it too much maybe, but I think about it.
That's great to hear. Final question here is on carbon offsetting as well. I know we briefly touched on that topic when we initially met, but what are your thoughts on it? Like, do you think like as a sustainable brand, it's something that you're looking to do because just to kind of get to net zero?
Mhm.
And yeah, and what does your audience think of it?
I don't know what my audience thinks about it. I wonder, sometimes I wonder if it's even top of mind for them, thinking of a lot of first-time parents being my customer, like they got a lot going on to add now, like their carbon footprint and all of that. Like, I don't even know if that's top of mind. I think if I were able to offer them information, I think it would be a plus. And that's kind of one of the ways that I market Eddys. Like, this is a really great product. Um, it's long lasting, like you can pass it down. It's good quality. It's not going to break the bank. And if you're interested, it's also really good for the environment. We're not creating new waste. Like, all of that is almost extra. And I almost feel like that's how it should be. I don't really understand why it's not, but I feel like we could talk for another hour just about that alone. But I do think it's important, right? Because in my original idea of having this perfect brand, it's impossible. You need to create waste. As human beings, like breathing in and out, we create waste. It's just a matter of finding the balance, right? And knowing, and that's why I'm trying to keep as much data and like all of my waste, because knowing how much I'm using, I can then figure out how to create that balance, right? How to give back, how to put back. Yeah, and I think that's really important, to know and understand. Like you can't be zero waste. It doesn't exist. As human beings living on the earth, even the sheep and the cows, right? We've all heard about
Right.
the gas of the sheep but that's just natural. They eat, they have to release it. They have to release their gases. It's just a matter of having that balance, right? So putting back what you take.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
That makes a lot of sense. All right. And 2021. So we're finally here. We got through 2020. What's it looking like for you, and what are your plans?
I'm really excited about 2021. I had invested in a new machine, which is finally being shipped this year, which is super, super exciting for me because it's going to allow just like a different, like Eddys to scale to what I wanted it to scale, which I cannot do by myself. And it's also going to allow me to start hiring people, start hiring
Fantastic.
technicians and engineers to like help me run it. So I'm really excited about 21 for that. So yeah,
That's
just
awesome.
continuing to grow and continuing to make connections. I'm really looking forward to being able to like get back out and talking with customers and showing them product and getting feedback. That's always been a lot of fun for me. I didn't think that it would be, but it really was. So I'm really looking forward to that as well.
That's great to hear. So you're scaling up in 2021. That's awesome. And it took a bit of work for you to get there. So as a solopreneur, do you have any tips for other solopreneurs out there?
Yes. And every time I get asked this question, I say the same thing. And I think a lot of people do, but it is so true. You have to find your people. You have to find people that believe in you, but also people that will give you honest feedback. Like if you've got a bad idea, you need someone you can trust that will tell you that, but also that will encourage you when you're unsure, that will connect you with others when you need to focus on something you don't know about, whether it's marketing or building a website or sales or bookkeeping, like all of that, but people that believe in your business. And that for me made a huge difference in 2018, like to really move forward and actually get the business launch. Because I had been working for maybe about 9 or 10 months on the idea and like the sourcing, and it was really hard until like I found a network of people that believe in sustainability, believe in fair trade, and want to push small businesses forward. So yeah, that's what I always say. Wherever those people may be, and you might go through 3 or 4 different networks and like it's not right, keep going until you find your support system. Because you can't do something in a vacuum. You can't do it by yourself.
That's
You need help.
That's amazing. That's such a great tip. Like find your people. I couldn't agree more. But thank you for this, Carla. That is such an amazing talk, and thank you for all the tips and the conversation.
Thank you.
And yeah, looking forward to maybe having a follow up soon at the end
Yeah.
at 2022 and see how it
Yeah.
happened.
I'll bring you downstairs and show you the micro factory.
All right. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.